Record. There we go. It's been a day. All right. So, Lana, go ahead. Ask your Q&A.
Okay. First and foremost on my mind is just dealing with a kind of like shocking grief, I guess, from
Yeah.
Charlie Kirk being killed. Somebody I've seen in person, followed and admired his courage to talk about Jesus, and then I've never felt like I've ever grieved about a public figure before. Just kind of
Hmm.
odd. It hit me in a way that I didn't expect. And just also made me really think about like how vulnerable to let yourself be, whether it be on social media for your business or um, like one-on-one conversations. And I know that's part of being authentic. It just seems like that was a really, really hard consequence, the hardest one there is. And so, uh, love your thoughts on that. I'm sure the rest of the group probably would too.
Yes, yes, for sure. And that's basically what I had prepared for tonight also, because uh, unfortunately, that is something the state of emotions that everyone is feeling right now is something that I am very familiar with. Growing up in a foster family, our life was always different. It was scary. We didn't know what kind of people we had in our home, right? Who was sitting at the table, what kind of mental state they were in. Were they grieving? Were they aggressive? Were they like quiet and passive aggressive? Like there was a plethora of different emotions and different characters even coming through our home and our family all the time. So growing up, this vulnerable situation that we are all kind of feeling right now of like, where are we fitting in this big huge melting pot, um is something that unfortunately I am super familiar with, right, on a smaller level, but it's still the same situation when you think about it. Like, now social media has opened it up that now our dinner table, so to speak, because we are inviting it with our phone, our dinner table is super wide and super big over multiple continents, even like not just states, but also even continents, right? And that disturbs our sense of safety, our sense of what we think is right and wrong, right? And that's a big issue, and it can threaten us to the point that we fall into depression or anxiety or anything else, right? So our emotional state is at risk over here through, yes, Charlie's situation, but also the Hungarian girl, for example, right? If you guys heard that, like, that provokes fears of you can't even sit in this train anymore without not knowing who's behind me and who's going to do what to me, right? And when you think about it, your mind can go and spiral quite a bit, right? You can think out of the sudden, oh my gosh, I can't even get into the grocery store anymore. Oh my gosh, I can't, share on social media about my business anymore. I can't, you know, like my first initial response is always wanting to go and hide. Right. And what happens is it's our fight, flight, and freeze response, our nervous system response is being deployed because we are in the state of fear. And many of us, I have to put on my fan here. Many of us are not aware about the fight and flight and freeze responses. You guys, I've been talking about this before. You guys are aware now that we have either fight, flight, or freeze modes that our bodies are reacting with. So this situation, Charlie's death, for example, or that girl, or whatever, 9/11, even today is 9/11. These are incidences that trigger a response in us, right? So we have the emotional stage of either apathy, shock, or numbness, right? That's number one, is the emotional state. So when something happens like that, we can act in shock. We can then freeze, or we can detach, depending on what your outcome is going to be. Maybe we can detach. Maybe we just think that's unreal. Maybe we are feeling disconnected. I do believe there's because this is so happening all over the place on social media, that a lot of people are starting to detach, not necessarily letting in the fact that an actual real person died in that moment, right? They are detaching from this. So when we are looking at them and we're starting to feel angry at other people, we got to remember that even if they are detaching from it, that also is a trauma response that they are possibly dealing with. Okay. So it's not always to say, oh, they're all awful, or this is like, humans have these different responses. And if we feel numbness, or if we feel shock, we may just act like, yeah, nothing ever happened, or I don't even want to watch it, or, something like that. Or we don't care. And even that numbness can trigger someone else. And this is why you see this variety of different emotions coming up all over the place. The more you watch, the more you are actually taking on everyone's unique traumas. That is what happened to me on a daily basis sitting at the table, because we always had like eight, we were always like eight kids in the family, and only two of them were me and my brother, and everybody else was on a melting pot. So what happens right now in this large scale is what happened to me face to face on a dinner table every single day. And you cannot control other people's traumas. Okay. You cannot judge other people's traumas. You cannot judge anybody else's responses to whatever the fact is, the thing that happened. But you can then become aware of yourself, see how you are how you are dealing with the trauma. And maybe you don't have to have empathy in terms of, I understand where you're coming from, but I mean, or like sympathize. Well, yes, you should have empathy, right? You should at least, even though you don't agree with other people on it, you should be aware now that even if somebody acts in apathy, meaning they're detached, or they're just completely disconnected, that is just their freeze mode, how they're dealing with the situation. Some people, when they grieve, they are acting in disbelief or denial. That's kind of the same thing, right? So refusing to fully acknowledge the event has even impaired anything or impacted anything. Like, there are literally people that are not even wanting to take a look at this, and they're like, yep, that's happening. Part of it is self-protection, right? Part of it is that people are very afraid to take a stance these days out of fear for repercussions. Um, Part of it can be just the afraidness of, I can't I can't deal with the whiplash that possibly comes up. Like, if you take a stance right now, I mean, I just right before I hopped on this call, there was this other influencer that said he made a condolence post yesterday and he lost 6,500 followers, right? Just because he made a condolence post to that family. 6,500 followers just left him. And on top of it, all these hate comments. Now, when you think about it, with social media now, it's very easy for people to be, I want to say, balls out to the wall, right? Because that's all that comes to mind right now. I mean, they're very aggressive, very much detached from the fact that there is actually human on the other side. I mean, whether or not you're dealing with influencers or not, I mean, this is still another person. It's another human. But that's really like, that's what happens. So when you are an influencer, or we are building our businesses online, we have to be aware that other people are practically on our dinner table and that they may have different opinions. Now, how can you protect yourself from that fear that you have, right? The way how you protect yourself from that fear is you have to be okay with yourself. there's something called the transaction analysis, right? I'm okay, you are okay. You are okay, I'm not okay. This is a psychology model, right? And the different mindsets basically is, or the goal is, I'm okay and you are okay. That is the goal everyone is supposed to have. Many of us are, when we deal with trauma, we are dealing with, you are okay, I'm not okay, or you are not okay and I'm not okay. Right. And those are the different scenarios that you have in this model. Now, what we want to get to is I'm okay and you're okay, meaning I'm okay feeling I'm a supporter. I feel rooted in my values. I feel like I am a good person because X, Y, and Z, right? And when we want to say I'm okay and you are okay, we want the you okay part, even though we do not agree with them, we can come to the conclusion ourselves that we will be open-minded and at least hearing what the other person has said. So when you look at the scenario with Charlie now, that's exactly what he did, right? He had his convictions. He was very much involved with his mind that this is what I stand for. This is who I am. I'm okay with who I am. And he seeked conversation with people, right? And it's because he was okay in his mind and he wanted the others to also be okay. That's why he was open-minded enough to hear what they had to say without judgment. He was looking for that exchange between, okay? Now, in his scenario now, there are some people that had the model of, I'm not okay, and you are not okay. And that is what happened. In this very large circle that he put himself in, unfortunately, you cannot control that, as we saw, right? You cannot control the mindset of the thousands of people that were sitting in that open public. He took that risk. He took that risk willingly. We, however, when we are on social media only, we we can minimize that risk. We still have that risk that when we are publicly speaking, that there are people that we can say we are okay, but you are not, and they are not okay. We come across the feeling that they or the chance that they say I'm not okay and you're not okay either. So that's when the hate models are going to happen. This is where bad comments come, where you're going to be unfollowed or something like that because they are acting out in anger or in frustration, anything like that, right? That's what they do. When somebody's angry, they might just block you or they might unfollow you. That we cannot control. But again, we can control whether or not we think I'm okay. Right. And if we continue to say, I'm okay and you okay, you can even, if somebody acts that way, say, you have the right to decide if you like to follow me or not. You have the right to decide if you want to hop on a call or not. You have the right to decide if you want to watch the replay or not. You have the right to decide if you have a different opinion than me. That is okay with me. Right. So that is basically, by the way, Lana, I have to tell you, I love that you look at your son and that you like smiling at him and that you make that eye contact with him. And I love, love, love that because this is, even though you are present here with me, you are still giving him attention. You are not completely like zoning him out or anything. I love that. And I want to shout that out to you. All right. Good job. Um, Okay, so does that make sense though so far? Like with this, I'm okay and you are okay? Yeah.
It does. I'm equating it to like I'm confident or okay with myself and I acknowledge what they're doing, but I'm not going to agree with it, but it's their thing, you know?
Right.
Is that the same? Am I on the same bandwidth there?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
It's you cannot you can meet them with empathy. You can
Right.
meet them with you can even meet them with disbelief. Like that's all you're right. You don't have to have empathy for them. You can
Hmm.
say, I completely do not understand where you're coming from.
Right.
I do not understand. Right? That is totally okay. I mean, whatever it is, you are feeling at this moment, you've got to be okay with yourself. And this is where you process your emotions, you process your grief. Okay. Um, we cannot,
I guess there's this part of me that thinks to myself, he did everything right. He did the I'm okay, they're okay thing. You know, he didn't judge anybody. Like he did everything right and he
right.
still paid this ultimate price. So
And you know, this
that's
is
I'm
human,
having trouble.
this is human nature though, right? When you think about it, back then, Jesus did everything right and they
Mhm.
crucified him.
Yep.
People stoned people to death. And they actually were laughing at them and looking at them and like enjoying that scenario. People were watching in the arena how slaves got eaten by lions. I mean, it's when you think about it, it's quite normal for humans to act that way, except for now in social media time, like it's just more accelerated. Back then, you were not aware of everything happening. Right now, with social media times, we are just aware of everything happening. And that is why sometimes it can feel so extremely overwhelming and threatening to our personality right now, to our safety, our immediate safety, right? And that's where this is where the lack of boundaries basically play a role. So I don't know if I've talked about this before. This is the same for parenting, by the way, boundaries, right? Boundaries create safety. When you have a big field and there's absolutely no horizon, you can't see anything, it's very scary to stand out there in the open with no end in sight. It's very, very scary to do that. If you somehow see, okay, my field goes until here, and then there's maybe a fence, and there's my house, and you kind of have something to orientate yourself with, you are okay being out there, right? But if you are not, it's very, very scary because you don't know where you're at. That is what's happening with social media right now. There's no boundaries unless you are the one who's putting boundaries in place. Okay. If you are the one who's putting boundaries in place, that's when you can start um, converting your emotional energy and basically like converting that energy and using it to something else. Okay. So you set a boundary in, you start recognizing, okay, this is feeling okay for me, and this is not feeling okay for me. Like, where, what thoughts, remember we have this, what thoughts are we thinking when we're feeling that? Let's say, for example, your thought is, this could be me, right? I could be the one that now gets assassinated when I'm in the grocery store. If I say anything faith related, maybe I could be assassinated. Okay. That's a very clear, fearful thought. You put that on paper and then you start thinking, okay, that was my thought. What's my feeling on that? My feeling is terrified. Okay. From the feeling of terrified, we are probably going to hide somewhere or freeze, fly, flee, or fight. Which one is our main response? We have to figure that out. When we have that, see, if you're somebody that fights, you might be the one in the comments, like picking fights with people left and right, right? Maybe you are lashing out at your kids because your stress level is too high in that moment. Those kind of aspects have something to do with you have a thought, you're feeling, and then that's your trigger. Now you're acting. Okay. So once you have that thought and your reaction, what's your result? Of course, you're creating maybe not to be assassin, but you have some kind of a negative situation. So when we have this thought, we need to see how likely is that happening. See, in Charlie's aspect, it's very likely that he will get shot. He is, when you think about the situation, he put himself out under one little tent in front of thousands of people. Even if he doesn't get shot, I mean, I was like thinking today, I'm like, I'm surprised this guy didn't get run over. I mean, technically, the mob just has to push forward and just crush him, beat him, or do something. I mean, right? That would no bodyguard would have been able to hold the masses if they, I mean, think about the cows. If that herd of cows is going to run out of the sudden and you are in the bad spot, you're going to be run over. Am I right? You're going to be trampled if they get spooked. I mean, am I right or am I right? Right? You would be trampled or at least pretty darn hurt. That's kind of like the same thing over there. He put himself in that position because this was his voice. He wanted to rather, he was so courageous that he took that risk willingly. And he made it, there was one thing, one statement of his, if he would die, that's what he would want to be remembered for. He made that choice very consciously. He wanted to be remembered for his faith. He wanted to be remembered for his courage and his bravery. Right? That was his decisions. That's what he wanted, and that is what he created. That was his thought, and he ended up creating it that way. Clearly, he did not choose to get shot. However, that risk was there. He was aware of it. Right? Now, in our case, when we think this is gonna happen to us, is it likely that it's going to happen in a grocery store with somebody that is not nearly as exposed as he is? Not very likely. It could happen, surely. It happened to that little girl in the train, right? There was a crazy individual behind her. She did nothing, right? That can happen. It can happen. However, we can also be hit by a bus. We can get in a car accident. We can fall off our combine. We can have a heart disease that we didn't know. We can have a brain aneurysm. That's why we have faith. Okay? That's where we need to trust God to have his hands in this. We have to live every single day with a grateful heart for what chance we have been given. This morning, when I wrote my gratitude, I thought to myself, like, some people did not get as lucky. Charlie did not get to wake up today, right? This other girl did not get to wake up. No one knows these things other than God. That's why we have faith. Okay. So while we have been given this chance, all we can do is we can get up, we can be grateful that we have another sunrise, and then we can focus on doing the best we possibly can be in that one day that we have been given. And if we get lucky enough tomorrow to do the same thing, then we're going to do the same thing again. This is why we need to make sure we are doing things every single day, one day at a time. If today would be my last day, how would I want to show up? What would I say to the loved ones? What would I act like? How much would I work? Of course we need to work because we want to work, right? So some of us have jobs that we don't like to do. Okay, well, we have to do it out of X, Y, and Z right now, but then let's find what's going to fuel our soul. Let's find the purpose of our life. God's been giving us gifts, right? And hi, buddy, so cute. Uh, I just want to squeeze him. I don't know. Hi. Oh, he just. um. So think about it. What is our purpose, right? What is our purpose? What do we want to pass down to our children? What do we want them to know? What do we want our partner to know? Like, what do we want our parents to know? All these things, we have one day, and this is what we need to do. There's been so many incidences where even young people that I knew passed away. Brain aneurysm, gone. Car accident, boom, gone. Motorcycle accident, boom, gone, right? It can happen at any given time, every given day. However, if we believe that God has a purpose, which I truly believe, and I think everyone that is in my coaching is also a believer, right? We believe that God has a purpose for us, for our lives. We we are all living on borrowed time, right? And when you look at Charlie, for example, you know how many believers are now coming out bolder than ever? He took a sacrifice, yes. But a lot of people are going to come. There will be the people that are going to decide to hide. They are going to be the people that are going to crumble. It's a natural sorting process. And the people that have mental strength and faith, those are the people that are going to rise. Now, how do you get this mental strength? You control your thoughts. Okay. Hi, Mr. Fiddler. So you have to control your mental thoughts. That's it. So when you start getting fearful, right? When you have your so think back to the time that I sat at my dinner table with all these kids. Now you sit there and you have to have some skill of that's what the emotional sensitivity skill is. You have to look at them and evaluate fairly quickly what mental state they're in. You can see by the way how they're communicating. You can see by the way how they are acting, what kind of body language they're having. Do they make eye contact? Are they secure people? Are they insecure people? Those are skills, people skills that you can learn. And when you learn these skills, you are able very quickly, you can very quickly identify if somebody is mentally stable or if somebody is not. Okay. What I told my girls this morning when because they're going to school, they're out and about, this and this, they need to know those skills too, because we are living among those people that are mentally ill and that are mentally not capable of controlling their urges or their impulses and stuff. They have trauma, right? And I can understand that, but at the same time, I got to protect myself and be also safe and my kids as well, right? We have to do that. So how do we protect ourselves? Well, the best protection is vigilance. Vigilance, awareness, and disengage. Okay. So when we see somebody acting like, think about a bar fight. Think about a bar fight, right? You would not, if somebody is drunk, so they are mentally impaired, swinging fists, you would not necessarily go in there and pick another fight because the chances that you are going to get black eye is probably pretty high, right? Somewhere you get like mixed up in the mix. What can you do though? You can try to disengage. You can go and get help of some sort, right? You can diffuse, redirect the situation. These skills are coping skills that you can also use on social media. So when you have your boundaries, I talked about the boundaries, you have these boundaries and you get to choose. I don't need to look at this anymore today. I'm going to stay off social media for a couple of days. Okay. I'm not going to look into the reels. I am not, well, I'm only posting my content. So I'm making my contribution and then I'm off. You have to set these boundaries for yourself so that you can control the amount of fear that is being instilled in you. Okay. When you're with somebody in person, you also control their access to you. You are not going to be there all the time when they're unhealthy for you or when they are mentally unstable or when they're drunk. You're not. You hide, you kind of like leave, you go somewhere else, you disengage. Those are coping skills that are going to protect you. That is the same with social media. You disengage. Okay. We cannot control them, but we can control ourselves. and we can process. The fear that we are feeling by this craziness, when you understand that that's always been there, it's always been there. People were hunting people forever. Now we just know about it. And the cues that are coming in, the visual cues of like watching him being shot from 50,000 different angles. Remember, you don't even know half of the stuff may be AI. You don't know what's true anymore. So what do we anchor ourselves in? He was a good man. He was standing for what he believed in. He had very clear expectations, right? We need to mirror the same principles for our life. So what can we control? We can control how we feel about it by the way how we think about stuff. We can control how we act towards others. I'm okay, you're okay. Right? If we recognize I'm okay, you're not okay, what do? We disengage very quickly. Very quickly. We are out. We're out of there. Okay. Because there's no need for us women, especially, to go fight with anybody. You will never, it's kind of like a narcissism relationship. Okay. So many of us are dealing with toxic relationships and narcissistic relationships. When you're dealing with a narcissist, you can have all the empathy in the world. The narcissist will never get your point because they're not interested in understanding your point. What they want you in mental despair. That's what they are thriving on. Okay. There's no reason why anybody should ever engage with a narcissist more than you have to. The only way how you're dealing with these situations is by disengaging and leaving. Okay. It's the same thing with these haters and with these unhinged individuals and mentally ill individuals that I feel also I personally can feel a little bit sad for them because do they have the mental health resources? Who knows? We don't know nothing about them. We don't know nothing about them. We don't know their upbringing. We don't know the severeness of things that they've been growing up with. I saw yesterday another video which came across and I had to shut my social media off too. That's when you go into protective mode. I came across the social media thing about this little boy where both of his parents were just awful. They basically kicked that 5 or 6 year old boy out of the house and said, like, he's no longer welcome in their house and they don't want to put up with him anymore. They don't want to deal with him. And that poor little boy was standing his ground and he was like, well, I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying here with my family. And they kept saying, like, you are not part of for me, it was horrifying. And I was like, looking at the amount of people that were watching this, it's like in the 60,000 people. And I'm like, I couldn't even say, did they film this for entertainment purposes? Did they film this out of desperation? Why did they, like, how can this be public? How can this is child abuse. Like, this is, so when you think about it, this is the mental state of people. And my initial thought was like my fight, right? What can I do? Where can I find this boy? Like, and then I had to rein myself in and say, I cannot impact everybody in the United States and above. I can only make a difference in my circle with the people here and then hopefully help other people to be mentally healthier, right? By understanding their core values. What are our core values? What thoughts need reframing, instead of saying something like, what is I right here? I was hurt, I'm broken. Maybe we can reframe it to, I experience pain and I'm learning, I'm growing, I'm choosing strength. Right? We have to learn how to reframe these initial thoughts to a point that we can turn this pain into purpose and make sense in where we are.
Absolutely. My mom and I went to a conference this past weekend, and it was very interesting because it was all people like basically talking about all the pain and things that they had and awful experiences. I don't want to discount any of them, but they never ever talked about the joy or like the other side or nothing. It was just all like
Doom
I
and
had this
gloom.
terrible thing happen to me, and it was boohoo. And then like it was as if everybody needed to have some sort of terrible thing happen to them. And I'm not really sure how we ended up in this room, but there was no hope. It was awful. It was like so when you said reframing, I think if they would have shared it that way, that would have really helped.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to reframe it because, like you said, everyone had bad things happening. But when you have the bad things and then you find a purpose, because when you think about it, God gives us these scenarios to grow on, to learn from, to do something with, right? When you think about, there were moments when I thought, why me? Why do I sit at the dinner table? Why do I need to deal with all this? Why do I have all these people? Well, guess what? Out of the sudden, I'm like today, I'm starting to realize, like, yeah, you know what? This was exactly how I ended up dealing with. So being able to anchor yourself in your own personal belief, knowing your strength, knowing and figuring out coping skills to have empathy, include them as much as you can, only if you can. Okay. That was the piece that I had to learn as an adult. You cannot include everybody. You cannot have empathy for everybody. Some people you need to cut off because they're so unhinged or possessed or whatever you want to call it that there's no argument, right? I mean, we all know there's demons in the world, right? I mean, I do believe that. Back then, it was the same situation, right? Or call it mental illness. I mean, people can call it whatever we want, but that's just basically what it is. Narcissism is the same thing, if you ask me. It's just a distorted view of the world, right? And every person has a different view. That's why we have to be open-minded. That's why we have to understand, like, listen to what they are viewing the world like. It's not always the way how we see it. See, if I say something is green, you may see it in blue because like your experiences made the color look blue. My experiences made the color green. Okay. So that's where the I'm okay, you are okay comes in. Even if you see it blue and I see it green, we can still agree to disagree, or we can still say, hey, it's green, green, blue, whatever, it doesn't matter. Right? It works for us. That's the I'm okay, you okay model. Right? That's the goal eventually. But like I said before, there are people that are saying, I'm not okay, and you are not okay. You cannot do anything about those people. You have to detach yourself. Whether or not they are your followers, whether or not they are your um haters on social media, if you are aware that that is a case that happens, you don't get hurt so much because it's not about you, because your picture, I'm okay, is solid. That's what you need to have. I'm okay. I'm okay in my beliefs. I'm okay in my convictions. I'm okay in my core values. This is how I live my life, and this is how I want to be seen. This is what Charlie did. I want to be known for my faith. I want to be known for my courage and my bravery. I mean, I just feel blessed that he didn't suffer, right? I mean, from what I saw, I don't think he even recognized what happened. Like, I think it happened so quick that I don't think he even, like, there was no pain, right? Uh, so when you think about that, he went out exactly the way how he wanted to, right? He said he wants to be known for his bravery and his strength. And that's exactly what he did. He was out there and he could have been trampled, you know? I don't know if you're froze now. You probably froze. So how do we move ourselves out of that fear? Um, we reframe the thoughts. If we need to, we reframe the thoughts, and then we take small steps, right? Identify your core values. Make sure you have the view of yourself. I'm okay. If there's something not okay, where you feel like you are not okay in something, that is the first thing that needs to be healed. That's the first thing that needs to be talked about. And if we need to do another one-on-one with anyone, please, let's do that. That is your foundation. This is where we are standing on. When you have the opinion about yourself that you are okay with what you are doing and how you're doing, your purpose, your mission, your vision, your values, right? That is your foundation. When you're okay with that, you can let others not like you. You can let others disagree with you. It's okay. They don't have to have your opinion because you're okay. The problem kicks in when people are insecure about themselves, and then you're like wobbling in the wind when other people are having different opinions about you. That becomes tricky then, because now you're always in that fear cycle. Okay. And that's when your anxiety can spin. That's when you can like completely get unhinged. So you got to find the way to anchor yourself through your purpose, right? Through your authenticity and your courage, your family, your freedom, all those things. um Freedom of speech. I know freedom of speech is a little bit threatened these days because you cannot talk about everything, you know. But then the question I have to say, do we have to talk about everything? Right? We might not have to talk to everyone about everything either. Um, if we see there's somebody, let's say the transgender discussion, right? If we see there's somebody that is completely convicted in their things, can we just let it be? Right? We could. And we can continue and focus to influence our family, our little circle, our support circle, and keep spreading the word for those that want to hear. Right? We cannot help everybody. That we just cannot. Some people we cannot help, you know? So I don't know if we have to have, especially us, if we have to have that conversation with everybody. We may not. We may just say, okay, believe something different and let other people believe what they need to believe. That's what I'm gonna do. I mean, that's what I'm gonna do. Like you, I can't change everybody. I mean, I have people in my family that made posts where I'm like, I cannot even look at you. So I'm like, I'm choosing not to. I'm choosing to not to. I'm choosing not to. Where I'm like, I'm just personally, I'm glad that I'm getting a divorce because I'm like, that is the reason why. Yeah, I cannot even, that's not me. That's not who I am. That's not what, you know. But am I going after that person? No, no, I'm not, because that's them. They got to stand in front of God one day and decide and make that happen. That's not my business. It's not my business to judge, right? Or to like, they're gonna have to stand judgment from someone much bigger than me. So I'm like, I'm gonna focus on my lane, on my children, on my things, that the things that I've got under control here. Okay. And that is where you ground yourself. What can you control today? What can you control today? Because you only have today. You can control how you speak to your spouse. You can control how you are not speaking to your spouse, in my case. So you can control on how you deal with your children, right? You can control on how many uplifting messages did you send to people today? How many people have you complimented? How have you taken care of your own self today? Those are all things we can control. And I feel that the fear that is coming in and the distractions through social media that are coming in, all of these are the bad energy, the devil trying to get us to stray basically from what we are really doing right now, or what we are supposed to be doing. We're supposed to focus on family. We're supposed to be focusing on love. We are supposed to be loving our neighbor like ourselves, right? But most of us don't even love ourselves anymore. So when you hear all these, you need to understand you gotta love yourself. You gotta then love your neighbor. You gotta sow the seeds, right? God wants us to sow the seeds. That's what we need to do. Okay, I'm done. What questions do we have? Do we have any questions?
Give me a minute. I gotta change the diaper, but I will have some.
Sorry, that's okay. For all you that are watching the replay, please go ahead and just keep having that conversation. Let me have questions, feedback, anything that you're working through, because I want to make sure that we are able to nail this emotional control. Because as much as it is in our family and for our personal selves, it also is for our business. When you see the situation right now and you, let's say, have a team that you are growing, right? Or a customer base or something, we are going to be dealing with this situation one way or another. There's always going to be people that are not having our opinion, that are maybe having bad mental health, that are like, I mean, it's going to happen. There's going to be haters, there's going to be likers. We need to continue to be solid influencers of our circles. Okay, go ahead, Lana.
Um, my question is about my team, a little bit unrelated to the rest of the conversation, but I'm trying to help them get their businesses started. And I don't want to give them too many things to do, because I can see more and I can see before they can, right? Because I've walked where they're walking now, but that was like 5 years ago. So trying to help them the best I can without giving them too much information.
Yeah.
Is there some sort of like framework or like
Yeah.
how do I do that?
So you divide the activities into steps. Okay.
Okay.
Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, whatever they have to do. Give them only one step. And when they have that step done, they need to come back to you and report. And then they can get step 2. Only deal with the people that are coachable, that are basically telling you step 1 and then okay. Those are the people that are going to be worth your time. So that's the people that you're going to help running with, because if they're not taking the action, you can lead somebody to water, but you cannot make them drink.
Right. I'm just taking some notes here.
Mhm.
Okay, so you and I have worked together one-on-one on my time blocking my day. My next question is when things go off the rails, which they have because life, how do I get that back on track? What things do I prioritize?
You reset next day.
Reset next day. Okay.
It's one day at a time. You win the day. And so when something happens today, for example, right? Or yesterday, boom, think, oh, buddy. So he's hungry. So one thing, if something happened, then you might have you might have, let's say, okay, yesterday Charlie died, right? That just rattled everybody. The entire system is off, right? And do you want to come say hi real quick? My daughter wants to come say hi too. Come on. You can say hi once. This is my baby, Coco.
Hello.
And this is my young, oh, ew, I don't want the kisses. Okay. All right, go. And this is Audrey. You're done? Okay, then go take a break. Yeah, you can watch TV until then. But I want to still record, okay?
Go downstairs.
Okay. All right, love you. Oh, wake up, Lena, please, real quick, okay? Okay. Sorry. I heard her by the door. Okay, better say something. Um, yeah, so reset. So yesterday something happened, life happened, okay? Can't control this. But today you can start over again. Give yourself a new chance. Give yourself sunrose. Again, here we go again. If you see that over multiple days, you try again and never happens, I evaluate your thoughts. What do I think about it? Or what I love to do is I love to overschedule things, and it takes me the actual task takes me a lot longer. Then if that's the case, you have to either decide, do I need more time for that or do I need more organization? For example, working out in the morning always took me a long time, and then I ended up being out of time and stuff. There were two reasons why I couldn't get it done. One was because I was used to letting myself off the hook because I always did everything for everybody else. So I had a hard time keeping my own timelines. Okay. So if I would have in my calendar, 5:45, get, dressed for workout, 6 o'clock. 5:45 would come around and I would still be doing other things at 5:45. And I would continue to do other things until now they're 6:15. And then what I should have, or what I had to learn was to say, I'm doing this task until 5:45, and then I'm moving on to the next task. Okay. So I would reach out to as many people as I could within that time frame. Okay. And if that was only two that day, then I was happy with that. If I couldn't do everything, then that was the case. Okay. And so I wiggled my way through trying to figure out, was it a mindset issue that prevented me from doing it, or was it a discipline issue that prevented me from doing it? And the discipline issue was for me the most important one, because people pleasing was like something that I was born into, right? So I had to heal my people pleasing so that I was able to adjust the fact that no, I'm going to be doing it this way. Now, with this coaching, for example, my kids and my family was so used to me being flexible when to do what and yada 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 yada, that even this was really hard to keep the line and keep the boundary going on. So you have to train the people around you. If they are used to you always overextending yourself and overdoing other things, then basically I love them so much. It's just like that face, I just see so cute. Um, so once I mean, seriously, Alana, I'm sorry, but he's got these big blue eyes and he's just like the cutest. It's probably because I only had girls, and he's really like, he's a boy. And he's growing so fast, right, buddy? Okay, so I got distracted, sorry. So my lines, right? My lines, when you have my lines, that's basically where I recognized that it was a discipline issue. I had to discipline myself and I had to let everybody else know this is what I'm going to do, right? And then next day, you just start over again. So identify, is it a discipline issue or is it a mindset issue? That's right. Watch that he doesn't poke your eye out.
I would say a discipline issue, probably mostly. Some mindset too.
Yeah. And it's easy to do. It's easy, this discipline issue, because we are liking to take care of other people. We are liking to take care of others and doing certain things, you know. I mean, it's kind of like a normal human reaction also, but you know, of mothers, but at the same time, it's the way how I reframed it for myself was, if I get myself to be disciplined and I get my kids to be acting disciplined too, they would be able to reach anything they wanted in life. Right? See, my mindset issue was, I do really want to take care of everybody. So I couldn't do the things that I wanted to do that I knew were going to help us. So my thought was always, I really want to take care of everybody. But then when I reframed it, I started realizing, like, if I do this work and if I hold my line, that's when I'm going to be able to take care of everybody. Right? And that was one of the things. And then I give my daughters this gift of also being disciplined enough to recognize, this is my goal. These are the actions I need to take. This is when I need to take it. And then they can actually reach any goal in life they want to, whether or not it's in business or in life or in relationships or what. If your goal with your husband would be to strengthen the relationship, is he listening? You know, strengthen the relationship, right? So that's your goal. What actions do you need to take in order to make that happen? You might want to have some quality time, right? You might want to have some other time. Ding, 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 ding. So you have an idea as to what actions you might have to take to make that happen. If you can discipline yourself and have boundaries around and say, for example, to your mother, Beth, if you're listening to the recording, this is just an example. But if your mother would happen to be always calling at a specific time, for example, that's the time when you want to spend time with your husband, right? If you did not set the boundary of, please don't call at 8 p.m., this is my hubby time, what message would you communicate to him? He's not that important. Am I right? Okay. Mother is more important. Husband is not as important. That is then a trajectory that your relationship would go into. If you don't want that outcome, you have to change that action. Make sense? That people pleasing of pleasing your mother for approval, for example, in that case, that would then be not doing you and your family a service. It would be the opposite. And that is exactly what happens with any kind of line that you are not holding when it's discipline. Okay. Any more questions?
I just was gonna say, I think that really helps. I think my discipline is because I'm not setting boundaries. And so I just let my clients contact me with whenever I respond to them, whenever I can, you know. And so that takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
And so then my other time blocks get moved around because I've set up this hamster wheel.
It's only a belief that we have. It's a scarcity mindset, actually, when you are always responding, because you are thinking, unless you have time, right? If you have time and you can, then it's one thing. But if you're in a different time block, like for example, if I'm in my lead generation time block, I am not answering any messages, right? If I'm in my working time block, I'm not answering any messages. Right now, I'm not answering any messages because I'm in the mentorship time block, right? So, I mean, unless my kid will call me and say, Mom, soccer's over, you need to come get me now, you know, then I'll be like, okay, I'm out of here. but I mean, that's basically what it is, right? We are in a time block right now, and the other people will not be mad if you are waiting until, you know, that time block for recruiting or duplication or customer service or whatever it is that is in your business will come. That's why you need to make sure you have customer service, then you have lead generation, you have marketing time. We talked about this briefly, I believe, in the previous training. You have to have these when do you do what sections in your time plan that you then can hold the line with. And that's how you are making progress in your business and your home life and your parenting life and everything else. You know, even with the parenting time, like when you are, when you are playing with your son, and that's why I was commanding you, right? You guys were out there, but you kept making eye contact with him still. That lets him know he's okay. You are okay, he's okay. If you are not even looking at him, then he gets that idea, I may not be okay. What's going on? I may not be okay. And then he will even, like, what is with this thingy? Did you see that? And then maybe he'll grow up constantly trying to search for approval of some sort, right?
I struggle with like have all these things that have to get done that mostly involve a screen and being present with him, but also looking at a screen all day. I just don't feel like
Yeah.
if I was in his shoes, I wouldn't feel like I was paying much attention to him. Like, you know.
Well, but I do think you got to give yourself some credit from what I've observed so far, how you are with him. I think you're doing a good job.
Well, thank you.
I see other people that's insane. Like, see, my kids know sometimes I'm working too. Like right now, she's watching TV downstairs, That's okay. They know. They know you have to work for money, right? They know that, and that's what you want them to see also. But I'm just like my thought just went there. But when you see sometimes in a restaurant here in Chicago, I see a lot of people, right? So sometimes I go to the restaurant and there's this mom and she's only scrolling, and that poor little 5-year-old is just sitting there having dinner by herself. And there is no eye contact, there's no conversation, there's no nothing. That is hard for the kid. It's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking what you see. So no, you're doing a fine job. Kids will know there's time that you have to work. There's time that they are not number one priority. And that is important because you want to instill that work ethic into your kids also, right? Sometimes you have to hustle. But yeah, you're making good breaks in between.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Well, speaking of spending quality time, I'm going to pop off here, even though I have more questions, but we'll get them answered at a later date and go spend time with family, do supper. So,
well, that sounds good.
Okay.
All right. I hope you're feeling better today, and everyone who's watching the recording. I hope this helped today to navigate some of those hard things that are happening right now. Turn off that social media for tonight. Literally enjoy your hobby, right? Take care of yourself, and that's that. Okay?
Thank you, Stephanie. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.